And this is Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, talking business, another edition of our video interview series where we talk to leaders in the field of banking, insurance, customer service, digital marketing, and business education, all to highlight the work of our team at CBSI in Harrison, New York. We provide insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry. And today we have a chance to talk to a good friend I've worked with on a number of projects, and that is Neal, founder and CEO of 360LiveMedia, located in our nation's capital in Washington, D.C. Don, how are you today? Good to see you.
Good to see you, Ken. Good to be with all of you. Thanks.
Absolutely. Well, let's start by just saying, I mean, it's been an unprecedented spring. You obviously work with trade associations and conferences, which have really had to cancel so much activity this year. What has the last months been like for you since the world changed in middle of March?
Well, we have been very focused on, obviously, our clients and the sectors that they're responsible for serving. And so we are principally in the event business, and we quickly went from being in the live event business to being in the hybrid event business. Obviously, we're doing lots of virtual events at the moment and figuring out really what does the path look like for the fourth quarter and then for 2021. So we've been spending our time talking to really every sector of the economy and discerning what is the starting point for planning for the future. So that's really where we are now. And we have a number of both recommendations, I think, and leading indicators of where organizations can go with their events and conferences and trade shows, and eager to share some of them with you.
Well, certainly, you're a leader in this field. We work with a number of trade groups in direct marketing in the New York area, also in New England, and everyone is shifting to webinars online and using video conferencing. And so we see multiple come out almost every day. I get a chance to sit in on a few of those. How has that been going? What's the effect? How is it to make webinars effective, do you see?
Well, webinars have been around for a long, long time, and I think webinars serve a very specific niche purpose. However, webinars aren't a replacement for large-scale events, conferences, or trade shows. And I think what we've seen in the last 10 years is that virtual events writ large haven't taken off, largely because they're not great in engaging and connecting and communicating to large groups of people. And they're also significantly less profitable by about 90% from the live events. So they just have never gotten traction. So today, obviously, all events are either being canceled, postponed, or delivered through a screen. And I think what we're seeing is that organizations that start from really scratch and try to create a virtual or digital experience, tabula rasa, versus trying to convert a live event into a virtual event, which doesn't really work. Most of the applications of a live setting don't play well in the virtual setting. So if you think about a Broadway performance, it does so many things incredibly well. The energy, the audience, the vitality of the performers, which is very different than you experience with a film. I mean, films are crafted differently, they're written differently, screenplays are recognizing that the audience is at home. So I use that as the analogy that we're really now more of a Hollywood sort of interactive TV environment than the live sort of, broadcast environment of Broadway.
Yeah, now I wanted to mention to our audience that you have a very good weekly newsletter, a blog. Don's blog comes out every Monday morning. I see it and enjoy it. And one of your recent topics was 10 ways proven to generate new revenue. And I know that's what you've been focusing on with your clients is generating revenue during this period where most of our activity is going to be online. What are some of the keys you have to generate new revenue in this new normal?
Well, anybody who's watching this, who's spent any time in the advertising industry or the media business or the marketing business knows that for long, stretches of time, organizations have been monetizing their customer database or their member database. And so what we're recommending now to associations and nonprofits is to use that rich base of member data to the advantage of your members and the sponsors and exhibitors and underwriters that support them. So it's really a media model that we're looking at. So creating virtual product testing, creating virtual focus groups, virtual hosted buyer, product placement, commercials. There's so many really terrific ideas that can be adopted at a relatively low cost, have high value for both the underwriters who fund them and the individuals who engage. So that's been the principal focus of our recommendations to the association community, is to really build a bridge between your members and the industry that wants to serve them. Because the industry right now is hungry for access to buyers and prospects. Everybody's looking to, in this environment, generate revenue and build their business. So it's a win-win.
And in your article, you talk about sponsorships as one of the ways a trade group can provide direction, access, source of prospects to their members. And you talk about one to few and one to one. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Yeah, the traditional sponsor model is typically a one to many. It's a sign hanging at a convention center or floor cling. The general advertising industry really was built on mass communication to mass audiences through mass media, and that's generally what trade shows and conferences did. They would broadcast, a message from a sponsor to a large group. I think we're living in a much more micro environment now with the one to few, which is offering access to a limited number of individuals that belong to an association for, communicating to their sponsors in a very kind of curated, intimate fashion. And then the one-to-one is exactly what you and I are doing right now. It's two people talking about something of interest to both parties, and then, frankly, monetizing that connection. It's the hosted buyer model sort of brought to a virtual environment.
Yeah, you mentioned one a technique which I think sounded interesting, the virtual business exchange. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, it's, because we are all striving to be in the company of other people, and really there is very little, if any, face-to-face sales activity or buying activity. What people are looking for on the buy side is access to new information, and they're looking for demonstrations. They're looking for information to make their businesses run as effectively as they can, because most of us are operating with fewer resources. So there's a lot of demand on the buy side. And again, the industry that serves whatever association we're talking about is looking for access to those buyers. So the virtual business exchange is really a trusted, branded, safe environment for people to come together, sort of the eHarmony of commercial B2B applications. So that's a very big opportunity. And also year-round commercial marketplaces, 365, 24/7, online solutions where buyers and sellers can meet anytime, and the technology's there today. And there's some very good examples of organizations that are using that year-round marketplace to their advantage.
Very good. Now, you've also made a point about how trade groups and can really expand what they're doing. I think, as we said, many are doing webinars to discuss various topics, perhaps provide education. But then you talk about what the second virtual event should be. What are some of the things that groups should try to do to expand their offerings?
Well, one thing I will tell all of you, and if you've done a virtual event, you know that you need a platform. You need a virtual technology platform to stand up your event, which is in many cases a souped up version of Zoom with some better graphics and visuals and chat and Q&A and polling. But I think what we're finding is that people who initially launched their first virtual event on a tech platform kind of rushed to get a platform that met the basic requirements. And really, it's almost like picking the tool before you decide on the strategy or the user interface or the user experience. So what we're seeing with people who are now doing their second virtual event is they're starting with, what are our objectives? Who are we trying to reach? How do we retain them for the next event? How do we build relevance, increase our reputation, generate revenue, and produce an ROI? These are the questions that everyone's asking, because most virtual events were offered free. So 80% of all association events are being offered at no charge, which is not a path to, viable revenue model. and the 50% drop-off rate of people who sign up and don't attend the event is devastating because the sponsors and exhibitors who were counting on them aren't there. So the second virtual event really starts with what's our mission, what are our objectives, what's the strategy to engage our community, and then what's the technology platform. So it's really strategy first, tool and technology second, all built on a much stronger economic model.
Well, that's true. I think we all had to learn Zoom rather quickly in March. I know I certainly did, but it turned out to be good. But you can see that for hosting a more elaborate event with multiple speakers and a larger audience, you have to build the capability for that. Now, one of the things I see is trying to generate content, discussions with leaders and CEOs of companies about their products and viewpoints of what's going on, and then doing a webinar and then sharing it in various places between your website, email distribution, and LinkedIn after the fact. What is that a way that an organization can expand by taking the content they use and sending it out on multiple platforms?
Yes, I mean, I think that, there's several elements of communication. Obviously, the content is very important, but the delivery mechanism is important. The duration of the content, the degree to which the content can be broken up into sound bites and nuggets. And so I think what we're seeing is there's nowhere to hide in the virtual environment. So in a traditional convention, you have lights and stage and music and theatrics, and that covers a lot of sins. But in a virtual environment, it's just me and it's just you. So the content has to be really good, tight, specific, and very easy to consume. And I think most people aren't great at communicating content in that fashion. So a lot of the content that's being widely distributed is just going out there and bouncing off the walls and really not getting the take-up rate. So it's really about the quality of the content, the delivery, and then frankly, the brevity and the specificity of the channel that you send it through.
Certainly, we certainly see a lot of distribution opportunities on LinkedIn as we'll distribute this. Now, the big challenge is, and you and I worked on some direct marketing conventions a few years ago, where there's dependency on trade shows where companies get to exhibit their products and services and meet new people to set up follow-up meetings. How do you replace a 2 or 3 day event where people travel to a destination and dedicate the time and make a point of talking to a lot of people, going through the trade show, talking to a bunch of different vendors there? How do you get people to, how do you replace that even to a small degree?
Well, I think the first step is you have to start early and build communities of interest. And I think LinkedIn's as good a place to do that as any. So if you can build populations and tribes or groups or cohorts of people who have similar interests 2, 3, 4 months before the event, then you can start to create kind of a dialogue and a communication channel. So when they actually come to the event, there are people that they want to see, connect with, and so you sort of pre-populate or stock the pond with people who already have some kind of connection. That's step number one. Step number two is to think like a media programmer. So you have to think about day parts, drive time, prime time, late night, and not trying to just pack a 3-day, 8-hour-a-day session in the middle of a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That doesn't work. Nobody stays on a virtual event any longer than they have to. And if you're not keeping them engaged and connected with polling and chat and the ability to go off and do some networking, people just don't stay. Some of you watching this might be familiar with Twitch.com. And if you've ever been to Twitch, you know that it's a overload sensory experience. There's not only live gaming, but there's commentators, there's a leaderboard, there's a ticker tape, there's chat, there's polling, there's Q&A, there's gamification. There's a lot of things happening. And for many people, many generations, and frankly, gamers in general, that's what they're accustomed to, that kind of intensity, pace, and information. So most webinars or virtual events are relatively monolithic and don't have anywhere near the intellectual stimulation, the emotional connection, and they don't give a chance for the audience to engage as much as they could. So there's a lot to learn. I'm confident we're going to get there because we're going to be living through this hybrid live virtual digital environment at least through the end of 2021. You probably saw that CES canceled their live event in January. That was one of the bellwethers. They were planning on doing a live 170,000 person event in Las Vegas. Just this week, they canceled it. Comic-Con canceled their live event. They did Comic-Con at home this week. And there's a lot of cautionary tales, I think, from what's happening with the large-scale events and trade shows that we can all learn from. So I'd encourage any of our people watching this to best practice what's happening, go to some of these events. Many of them are still available on demand, and really learn what's working, what's not, because it's moving quickly every single day. And the good news is there's a model for next year that we're very, very confident and optimistic is going to work, regardless of whether there's a vaccine, regardless of the local laws and ordinances where your event's going to be held. So I think we have to start looking forward to, the end of this year and next year for planning for a very strong comeback in 21.
Yes, and we've all thought that by the fourth quarter of this year, perhaps the virus would be gone and things would start to be able to support live events again. So many things in the world of sports and business are really on hold. It looks like the conference business is pretty much on hold for the balance of this year. How long does it take from the time that public health officials feel like the virus is under control for the conference business and the airline business and everything that goes with it to get back to a normal schedule? Is that a 6 to 12 month process, do you see?
I think people look to where the smart money is. And I think right now, if you look at Google announcing they're not going to go back to their office until July of 21, I think that's a good leading indicator. I think you do have to look at sort of the national strategy, which arguably there isn't one right now, in terms of when there's going to be more ability to travel from state to state to state. It's a multivariate equation with so many variables none of us can predict. I don't think the conference business is on hold. I think it's evolving and being reinvented before our eyes. So I'm planning on an environment in 21, regardless of what the conditions are, that there's going to be a robust business model for companies to do business, for people to learn, engage, connect, get inspired. And I think it's going to be a renaissance. I think most events have a lot of waste and friction and inefficiency. And I think that's going to be stripped away. And the live portion might be a live broadcast studio with remote live hubs in different parts of the world, a much smaller socially distanced footprint, broadcast like an interactive TV show to a virtual audience who's going to have a much better viewing, consumption, and interactive experience. So I think it's a really bright future. We're having to figure it out as we go, but some of the best companies out there are doing this. The technology is available. What's missing is the strategy and the vision, which is what we try to encourage our clients and frankly, the entire association sector to see what's possible, adopt a strategy, and then figure out how to put these puzzle pieces together so they can come out of 21 strong, financially, viable, and ready for a very good 2022.
Well, it's amazing how we're having to look that far out for the solution. Talking with Neal, founder and CEO of 360LiveMedia, located in Washington, D.C. Has a great blog, comes out every Monday, Don's blog, and you can sign up for that at 360livemedia.com website. Don, just maybe to finish, tell us a little bit about your career. You have done some interesting things. You were with Hallmark Loyalty, you were with Marsh McLennan in their affinity marketing group. You've taught at Georgetown University, and it led you to found 360 Live Media, your own company. Tell us a bit about the path of your career, if you would.
Well, I've been, like many of you watching this, fortunate. I've had a lot of what I consider to be serendipitous lucky breaks along the way. Hallmark Cards is where I started my career, a great Midwestern company with good values and frankly, a great career development program. So that's where I spent the first 15 years of my career, really in the consumer packaged goods industry with Hallmark. And then I went to be the chief marketing officer at Marsh McLennan, which is a large insurance brokerage firm. And I learned a lot about a lot of things in that business. And then I worked on Madison Avenue for a number of years at Omnicom with great brands like Mercedes and Kaiser Permanente and ExxonMobil. So I've had a lot of bites of the apple, if you will, and all of those things conspired to get me to start this company in 2011. which was later than most people start companies, given my age, but I really am energized by working with associations and bringing what I call sort of a Madison Avenue and Silicon Valley and Hollywood approach to the K Street association community. And so, you know, it's a great business, and associations are doing, you know, very, very important work on behalf of really every sector of the economy. So I'm proud to serve them, and that's our exclusive market segment. And they're doing very Herculean work right now on behalf of the members that they serve, and they're doing it under different circumstances. So it's been a very, very good career so far. More to come, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We enjoyed working with you on the Direct Marketing Association a few years ago, and following your thoughts on working with trade associations. Do you have a final thought for us today?
Ken, I just appreciate what you do. I love these video series. I watch them all the time, and I'm grateful to have a chance to talk to you. And thanks for giving me a chance to talk to your audience. I appreciate it.
Highly complimented coming from you, Don, and appreciate your time today visiting with us. Don Neal, founder and CEO of 360LiveMedia, based in Washington, D.C. Great advice offered in his weekly newsletter, Don's blog. You can sign up for that at their website, 360LiveMedia. Don Neal, great to see you today.
Thank you, Ken. Good to see you.
Our pleasure. And again, it's Ken Kraetzer for CBSI Services, talking business, representing our team at CDSI in Harrison, New York. We provide the insurance-based benefits to the credit card and payments industry, and always a shout out to our team taking care of our clients and customers during this COVID epidemic. So again, from my home office in White Plains, New York, this is Ken Kraetzer. Have a good day, everybody.